Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to the WrestleCast once again. This is part 2 of my chat with Mr. Paper. This was actually taken from the one chat that we had about AEW Revolution. Some was before we started about Revolution, some was after. So if he's referencing things that you think, hang on, he hasn't said that, or he said it last week, that'll be why. But overall, this is just more of a general chat around his history with professional wrestling, and then also about the AEW product itself. So, as usual, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
We welcome you to AEW's Revolution, where multiple championships will be decided and heated rivalries come to a head. The Wintrust Arena is sold out, and this capacity crowd is raucous, and by God, they are ready.
Jake Hager undefeated in MMA, and now undefeated in AEW.
You'll take a chance.
Pop
You
the
risk
jaw!
it all.
Oh! Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega proving their dominance, and that is it. The champion retains.
Here we are. It's time for Cody and MJF. There's not a more personal match on this card than this one. Oh my God!
Oh, the air raid crash!
He's gonna win the thing.
1, 2, no! The bastard, wrenches him down.
I didn't know what to expect, but what I saw, I loved.
Oh, there we go!
So much for the wrestling match. The fight has started.
Oh, the right hand from Hager!
It's Sammy Guevara with a title belt.
And Moxley,
I think he can see. Covering. Both legs hook. We've got a new champion. We've got a new champion.
I don't have words to describe the gratitude that I have toward the entire AEW family, and the most important part of the AEW family is you.
AEW Dynamite.
Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital, and welcome to another episode of the WrestleCast. Finally, I found someone within the Dimp Digital ranks to talk about some professional wrestling. He's the reigning Fantasy Gaming League champion and the former Fantasy Gaming League Grand Prix winner. It's Le Champion himself, Paper. How's it going?
Hello. Yeah, it's good, thank you.
Excellent. I didn't expect to see you popping up on any pro wrestling podcast, to be honest. My first question is, are you just doing this because you want to, or are you just using it as an opportunity to promote the Paper brand and yourself as the champion still, trying to still rub it in Hall's nose?
Well, any opportunity I can get to rub it into anyone's nose, I will 100% take advantage of. So I would be lying to say if that wasn't involved. However, I guess there is an element of me recently starting to take a bit more of an interest again, should I say, in the world of professional wrestling. As I'm Le Champion, I've been getting a few tips from the trades from the real Le Champion. So yeah. That's why I'm here. I guess we can talk a bit more about it later. But yeah, definitely there is an interest there now.
Interesting indeed. With regards to the FGL Championship, it's very early days. You know, the transfer window's just opened. Biff's already panicked and made transfers. Check out our Twitter feed to find out who the movers and shakers are. How are you sitting there in your ivory tower? Are you still as confident as you were at the start of the year? See anything that's worried you, or are you even more confident as it's plodding along?
Yeah, no, a feet up approach. Like, I've taken a bit of a shitter for the first game with Dragon Ball Z with a 73.
Ruined the streak.
The streak is over.
The 80 minimum.
The Undertaker of the FGL has taken that loss. It feels like. I'm not blaming anyone. Adcock. However, I have noticed Team Balboa have made a substitute. However, not represented on the website, may I say. I'm not going to blame anyone, but Chappers is on that team, and he is the website admin. So there might be some cheatery going on there already. Not pointing fingers, Chappers. I am pointing fingers, but that definitely needs to be addressed. But what that does mean for me is that puts that 73 onto a 78. So that's a little bit of a silver lining there. To be honest, I could get 60s all year. I'm still going to beat Barbara, so not too worried.
No, I mean, I've got a master sheet of the scores as well, so it is offline, and Chappers hasn't got round to applying the transfer penalties that people have got, but I've got it here, so that will not go unnoticed. But that's the FGO, that'll rumble on, and I think everyone's done for March transfers. Normally people get them in early, but something might get announced, and there might be some more changes, so check out Twitter and you'll find any updates that we have in the transfer world. What's your history of the world of wrestling? I mean, one of the earliest memories I have is this infamous SummerSlam '92 videotape that you had that was taped off Sky, and we watched that.
Yeah, I think in the UK, if you're of a certain age, and by a certain age I mean early 30s, I think a lot of people's first recollection of the world of professional wrestling is SummerSlam '92. Yeah. It was held at Wembley. It was on Sky, and it just goes down in sort of history, even outside the UK. I think as some of the greatest matches happened there, and so that was my introduction. Not because I had Sky, but because my cousins taped it. Onto a VHS and gave that to my parents, and then I watched it, and I think me and you must have watched it a fair few times, and I think, to be fair, I think I've even watched it like matches from SummerSlam '92 recently, when I was just like thinking, I wonder what happened there, and there was some really good matches back for '92 stands on that, and then obviously the famous sort of Bret Hart Bulldog Intercontinental fight at the end. So that was my introduction into the world of professional wrestling, and I think that sort of sparked. And so as a child at that age, and sort of towards your, I guess, up into your early I'd say up until just probably before your teens, we were lucky enough to sort of live through or experience the Attitude Era of professional wrestling, and so that was really and professional wrestling in WWE or WWF as it was at the time, that really got a lot of us involved, and the whole sort of the Rock, Stone Cold, the Kurt Angles, the Mankind especially, and all of that stuff got loads of people talking. I remember buying, I think Mankind had DVDs, and I remember having these DVDs where it's like hardcore DVDs or something like that, and it would show loads about. It
was like every boy at school watched it at that time. It must have been the early years of secondary school, from 11 through to 14 maybe. But everyone you spoke to knew who Mankind was. Everyone you spoke to knew who The Rock was. They all knew who Triple H was. They knew who Steve Austin was. Jeff Hardy was always a favourite because of his high flying and whatnot. But it was it's a cultural thing. I think that carries through today. People still make references to the WWF Attitude Era, even though they don't watch wrestling nowadays. Yeah.
Well, it started like tables, ladders, chairs matches, all that type of stuff, like the Edge Christians, the Dudley Boys, and the Hardy Boys, just all those, and that was a brilliant tag team era, and I actually still figure it hard to find something that's quite like that from from back then. That was anywhere near it, and the singles, the standout people where Rock, Kurt Angle, Mankind. Shane McMahon was even doing bloody dives off the bloody 20-foot high or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, but like McMahon and his arse out getting kissed and stuff like that. It's like just stuff that you don't obviously get now in the WWE product, but it was just stuff that was really good. And as a young kid at the time, it just seemed like amazing that there's this world of jackassery, where it was just like saying you could watch and be really good, and it influenced so much. And one of my key elements I remember in this period was the fuckers always had pay-per-views Sunday nights at 3 a.m. So you would have to there'll be absolute dickwads. No, they weren't. To be fair, they would just stay up and watch it because their parents would allow it, because it was on Channel 4 in the UK, which is a free channel, so you didn't have to pay for the pay-per-view. Which
terrestrial,
terrestrial TV, and so lots of people would record it on VHS or something, and then catch up the sort of next day. But you'd have to go to school. But there would be dicks that would be at school. This was before Twitter, before social media, that would say, "Oh, did you see when Stone Cold beat The Rock?" And you're like, well, "That's just fucked it for me now, isn't it? The main pay-per-view event is gone out the window."
I used to stay up and try to, and I
you were
remember
probably one of those people.
Well, maybe back then I wouldn't dare now, but honestly, I went in one time and I was so tired, like I felt ill, and I thought I can't keep doing this, because it would start at 1 and finish at like 4:30 or 4. So you get out for school probably about 6 or 7, and it was revolting. Yeah, Sundays.
And they had a pay-per-view every month, and it was just some of these. They were absolute shit pay-per-views as well. Like terms of, they were just thrown out of their pay-per-views that you're like, they're just doing this clearly to rinse the money off the American audience or the North American audience. But like, it was just every month, and so therefore you just couldn't watch. I remember actually going around to like sleepovers at people's houses, and we'd stay up and watch Raw that night and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
Friday nights, I remember that. Over here.
And so it was. I guess wrestling was quite integral. And then there's sort of, when you're going through school, then there was this, I guess, that period where like a lot of things that you look back and do and you actually enjoy now, like gaming, or I used to do like playing what's it called, a Warhammer and stuff like that. And now you wouldn't give two shits. You're older, you're like, well, whatever, I just enjoy that type of stuff. But back then, reputation is you're a child, and so you get a bit of stick for watching wrestling because it's fake and stuff like that, and so you just sort of fall out of it. And I think that happened to also be as it sort of became a little bit more PG. And so therefore, I think there was sort of a natural progression there that we saw, I guess, as a group, and myself sort of fell away from it. And I guess I fell away from it probably for about several years at that point. So I was really out of the loop. And then looking back, actually, and I was reminded of it today, or when we was talking about it, is in 2008, we went to see a Raw at the O2. But also the same year, I forgot about this, I went to see TNA in Coventry when I was at university.
I had it. I've got it written down here. I'm sure you went on your own, maybe with a friend from uni.
No, on my own. It was on at the local arena, and my house to the local arena was a 10-minute walk because it's in the city centre. And I just walked over there, I think on the morning, and they still had tickets left. And I think I paid, because I was a student, I wouldn't have been that much, but it must have been like between £10 and £20. And to get in and watch it, I don't think I really was watching TNA that much at that point, or watching it at all, but I thought, wow, something to do. And I was looking back at who was on that card, and there was so many good people on that card. Like there was AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Awesome Kong. I think Angle came out, didn't wrestle but did a speech, and so that was really good. So there was this period where I sort of I watched a couple of things and I was like, oh, that's quite interesting, but I don't think I really dived right back into wrestling. I sort of had some appreciation, like I enjoyed the shows, and I think for the WWE one, all I can remember is getting smashed and getting really pissed up and drunk, spilling beer over some poor guy and his kid in front of us.
He had a suit on that bloke. He'd clearly just come from work, and then you were bringing the beers back, and it was like a slow trickle, and it went right down the back of his neck under his suit, and it went on for a good 6 seconds before he because obviously everyone in Britain is mostly polite, they don't want to cause a ruckus, and then eventually one of us was like, you're spilling it, and he was like, whoops. And
I think he was all right about it.
He was a good sport.
But we got really drunk that day. So I don't remember too much from that, but there were some good moments there. There was some Undertaker was there, HBK, Triple H, Chris Jericho. So I think that's primarily the reason, was because there was still a lot of wrestlers from the original or towards the end of the Attitude Era that I recognised, or through the Attitude Era that's still there. So that was good to get to see them, was sort of the main part. And then I didn't do too much. And then I think once I left university, I remember talking with. I think I started getting into TNA a bit, or it might have even been towards the end of university. And as I left, going to TNA, it's just at the time sort of TNA was sort of starting to become big, and they were starting to make a bit of a dent into WWE. They had their different, octagon style ring,
ring.
and was it was it Jeff Jarrett was there?
That's
and
it, Jeff Jarrett,
Sting, and obviously they
people
had
like
some
Rhino and Booker T came over as
Yeah,
well. They started
exactly.
getting like,
and they had some good
higher
wrestlers
profile names.
themselves that they started. AJ Styles, Dan
Oh, yeah.
Bryan,
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, Awesome Kong, is it Gal Kim? All those lot started over at TNA, or they didn't start, but they sort of made more of their sort of bigger name at TNA via places like Ring of Honor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there was for me, TNA was all about one wrestler. Was a wrestler called Desmond Wolfe that I just sort of what's the best way? Sort of like fell in love with that character, and it's like this cocky sort of British sort of like I don't know Jason Statham type character that you would get, and he would always sort of stick the two fingers up and call people wankers. But he was a very good technical wrestler. I think unfortunately he got injured and he didn't compete no more not that long after that.
He's at WWE now. He's Nigel McGuinness. He's one of the announcers for NXT, so he's involved with that and the NXT UK scene.
Yeah,
so
I guess that was pulled over by William Regal, who's probably another prominent UK wrestler. That's actually that sort of led up the sort of NXT side of things. But yeah, he was, and Nigel McGuinness was his name before his Desmond Wolfe anyway, and I think he was actually in the WWE before he went to TNA. And you actually tend to find this, that some really good wrestlers are in WWE and they just don't get the opportunity because of a lot of good wrestlers there. They go somewhere else, the character suddenly then sparks an interest and people like them. But yeah, so that was it. Anyway, I think he sort of fell off. I remember getting injured, and about the same sort of time, I sort of found myself drifting away again from wrestling. And
MMA
then
came along.
MMA came along, and yet we then sort of skip over the MMA part, but like UFC, we really got into that for a bit, or quite some period of time, years. We're talking here. We used to go to the shows in the UK for the UFC over a number of years.
Replaced it, I think, for me.
Replaced
exactly. Wrestling, because I like you. I think I fell off TNA a little tiny bit before you, because I remember you telling me about Desmond Wolfe several times about he comes out and calls everyone wankers and all that, but I'd kind of dropped off at that point. And I think at that point there was like the main event Mafia, which was like Angle, Sting, and people like Kevin Nash had turned up and that, but yeah, then we started getting into UFC and that sort of replaced it, because it was I don't know, it's obviously wrestling's kind of based on a combat sport of sorts, and this felt like a real version of it almost. But I've kind of fallen away with that because I just do too many events. Yeah,
exactly. And it got to the stage where, like, I liked the UFC because there was, it was maybe twice a month or something like that. Or once a month, and so it was like really easy to keep up with, and you didn't have to. If you didn't watch it straight away, you didn't have to quickly catch up with it, or you would be really far behind. And so and it was. And the other thing was as well at the time, and going through this whole stage, it was real, and so therefore the aspect, they're really actually punching each other and really actually and stuff like that. They're actually trying to physically hurt each other rather than put on a show. Well, they are putting on a show, but you know what I mean. But yeah, that's what came along, and then it's that sort of died off over. I would imagine it's sort of the last 2 years really, sort of since sort of McGregor. Diaz sort of finished it. Sort of, I think people started sort of taking a little bit of a less interest, and there's been nothing that's really picked up recently. And then I think recently you've gotten into the wrestling again, and I think you went watch AEW. And the reason that AEW is good in the UK at the moment is that it's on ITV4, which once again is another free TV station. You don't have to pay for it in the UK, and it gets shown on Friday nights, though it's shown about sort of midnight Friday nights for 2 hours Dynamite, and so obviously it'd be then on catch up, and so I sort of found myself on Saturday mornings now just sticking on Dynamite and sort of watching through it, and I get the often cackle from the missus because obviously she's never really experienced me watching wrestling before, and going, what the hell is that? And I went, well, it's basically EastEnders for men, and EastEnders, people that don't know, it's a soap opera in the UK. It's and it's not just for men as well, just to be PC, but it's I sort of started getting into it, and what was quite nice about it was there were there were some wrestlers there that I really liked. I think it sort of helped that we've got the fancy gaming draft, which is on another podcast that you guys can go and listen to, which we've been joking around the champion and a little bit of the bubbly, and all that stuff started happening before I got into watching AEW, which was really interesting. Was like, there was a part of me that was like, oh, what are these sayings coming from? And because you've been hearing them banding around, and I was like, oh, it's from this. And then I watched it, and there's Jericho in it, and Jericho was obviously a part of, or towards the end of the Attitude Era of that came in the WWF, so that sort of pulled my interest in Jericho there. And then once you're there by being pulled in by someone, then suddenly it opens your eyes up to all the other characters within the product, and suddenly I've sort of found myself, religiously on a Saturday morning now watching it, or on a Saturday afternoon or evening, I'll crack out the beers and just catch up with Dynamite. Obviously not cracking out the beers on a Saturday morning. Well, depends on how
what the plan is.
Yeah, but it's just quite a nice relaxing thing. It's 2 hours. It's I can sort of turn my mind off. We're all we're early fans. We're all working. We've all got our own issues going on. But this is just something that's quite nice to watch and turn your head off and just be like, jump into it. And I can look at it. What's really interesting than that now is I can look at it in a different way. I feel like I can watch it as a TV show. Yeah. Like I could watch like things like Breaking Bad or The Sopranos. I know that nothing says is in an intentional meant to be a real life scenario. It's purely entertainment put on for us. But obviously the people that are doing it have to have this level of athleticism around them and stuff like that. And so I'm enjoying it from a sort of different perspective than when I really enjoyed the Attitude Era. Yeah, and there's lots of different characters in there, and I guess we can talk about that later when we start going through the AEW card. But I definitely feel that, and even just by looking at the audience, that they're taking a bit more of a spin towards, I guess, the Attitude type of era where it's not so PC that WWE went towards. And actually, you look at the crowd, it isn't really kids, or as if you look at the WWE crowd, which I was looking at, I was watching a video of Randy Orton today, RKO and some Edge's wife. It was on YouTube.
I saw that today as well.
But what I found was really interesting was that half the audience behind were kids, whereas if you looked at AEW, the audience is primarily middle-aged young men and women, and just drinking, getting away and just enjoying the show and getting involved and being allowed to get involved. And there was chants on the WWE one where people going, and it was just like, but the chants were made, like there were children, like you could hear, and I've got nothing wrong with it. They've got their product and it's brilliant, and it works and it makes billions and billions of pounds. But it's just nice listening to. It feels like the AEW is more positioned to where I'm at in my life and my age sort of group at the moment. So that's where I'm at the moment. And then that sort of, then I guess to be fair, I've only cards on the table, watched maybe 5 or 6 Dynamites, and then into this sort of revolution. So I'm generally pretty new to the table about it. I think I only started watching maybe 1 or 2 before Jericho's cruise, so the Rock and Roll Cruise or whatever it's called.
Because I remember when the first episode aired, I kind of told you about it then. I think you watched the first episode of Dynamite back in like October, and then I checked in a few weeks later and you was like, I hadn't watched the rest, and I was like, Yeah,
I think I watched one match or something, the very first match on, and I was like, I'm not got time for this. Yeah.
And then I was like, right, I need to get on at him just to see if I can wriggle his arm. I think pretty much since the start of this year, though, you've been watching nearly all of them.
And that
actually coincides when they've started. I mean, it wasn't like it was terrible before, but they were definitely trending downwards. And then this year, they've just been pretty consistently good, I find. Right, couple general questions for AEW, and then we'll get on.
Yeah.
It's run over, but it'll be split into 2.
Oh, so crikey. Where are you going to put that split? That's the question.
Well, there's some tricky editing that I can manage to do. Blood and Guts on March 25th.
Yep.
That's going to be based. I don't know if you've ever seen a War Games match, but essentially it's 2 rings covered in a cage, and there's teams of 4 usually that go into the match, and a new member of a team enters every 2 minutes, and it's the first team to get a pin that wins. They might change the rules slightly, but you mentioned the cruise episode that AEW had done with Dynamite. Do you like the idea of having these little special Dynamite episodes that give you something sort of to build towards in the interim, because we're not having pay-per-views every month?
Yeah, I think it adds a nice context to it. It spices up Dynamite, because Dynamite itself could become very samey very often, so it gives that a little spark. Equally, I think it rewards the fans for not having to pay for pay-per-view all the time, and so you're likely to have more of an uptake in terms of that thing, and actually those, that's the type of gimmicky pay-per-view that WWE or F at the time would have back in the day, and that type of show.
TLC is its own pay-per-view now.
Yeah, exactly. And
Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, exactly. But that what I'm trying to say is it would then force wrestlers that don't belong in those situations, or not very good at wrestling in those situations, into those situations, because they're the top performers. So I don't, for example, I don't know, the Blood and Guts one. I don't know if I would want to see the Young Bucks in a Blood and Guts. I don't know if that's really that. I don't know. I could be guessing here. They might be all Blood and Guts, but it's not Jericho. I don't think either. I was watching an interview of him today where he said he fucking hated going over on tax once and stuff like that, and he's only ever done it once, and it's the worst thing ever. So it isn't for him, but it enables AEW to then start pushing some of the wrestlers that might not get the more sort of conventional go. I'm 99% sure you're going to see Luther versus Jimmy Havoc on that show, and so it gives them a chance to give those a bit of a push and see if any of them sort of come off well with the fans and then moving forward. And I think it spices things up. It keeps things varied without having to buy into it all, because I just think it just becomes a bit too much. I think the buy-in's $20 or $19.99, which is quite a lot of money. And if that's on a monthly basis, it's a ton of money for people. So I think it's really good. I'm really excited about it. As I think I mentioned at the start, or on the other podcast, if this has been split, that I was really I really like Mankind and his hardcore DVDs and stuff like that. And so I'm really hoping that they're going to bring a bit more of the indie feel into it, because I feel like that's what they'll do well. And so it'll be good. And you're right, I've not seen a War Games. I never watched WCW where it really was sort of started off, and I was watching the video today. I think they're doing War Games now in NXT. NXT. I was watching Regal talk about that, and I was so for me it'd be my first sort of dip into the world of the War Games, so I'm quite intrigued to see what that's about. And I'm looking forward to that. I think it's a good pattern. I think, big pay-per-view and a big Dynamite in the middle, which has sort of got something attached to it, the Jericho Bow Rock Party, whatever it's called, and then this one, the Blood and Guts, and then build. Because I feel like that's a really good way to to build feuds up and have little ups and downs, and cheaper and stuff like that. So
you can pay a few off as well, can't you? You can pay a few off during that big sort of TV event, and and then start building to all the pay-per-view stuff, because it's hard to keep stuff going for 3 months. So if you need a little interim feuds, then you can. And
it's also a good way to allow belts to be changed as well, if you don't want to have to change it on just a normal house show, because it feels like it's got a bit more special to it.
Yeah, agreed. Do they need one more singles title in the men's division or not?
I was thinking about this actually the other day, and I'm in sort of two minds about it. I feel like they could, but then I also don't know what it would be, because I don't want an intercontinental belt, which is just hey, look, you're a good wrestler, but you're not in the top 5, for example. That makes no sense to me. It's got to be something something like a hardcore championship, which you'd never get, the people in the top 5.
WWE have a 24/7 championship now, it basically means the belt's always on the line. It's not hardcore, but if you've got a ref, It's shit. It's a comedy belt. It's awful. And unfortunately, got Mick Foley to come out and present that when it first went live.
correct.
But anyone, they've had fucking. Who won it? I think they've had Pat Patterson win it, like that old bastard still knocking around one of Vince's stooges. They've had all sorts of people winning that. But what about? I mean, but going back to TNA, they used to have the X Division, which
The
was
high flyers.
more. I remember that's it. And they used to say it's not about weight limits; it's about no limits. And the I guess the expectation was that will be one of the top 2 matches on the card because they've put people in there that can go and that can put on a really good performance.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like because like you look at Sammy and Darby and stuff like that, they might not get a sniff in for for a while, but they're both fantastic and they're the type that could fight for like this sort of lower belt. I would like to see something like a belt for like younger or independent wrestlers, like people that have been given the chance that have not not established or sort of making their way up, sort of something along that. And I guess you could have it similar, like I guess the Intercontinental, but you don't let fucking Goldberg win it. It's
no, that's the main belt he's won. Universal title.
Was it?
That's their main. No, they got two big belts, one for Raw, one for SmackDown. They've got the WWE title, and then they've got the Universal title.
Fucking hell.
And he's won that.
Well, that's just how much I'm keeping up to say with this WWE.
I want you to watch it on Channel 5, just one show of the highlights, and just see what you think.
All right, well,
it's on Saturday and Sunday mornings.
Bloody hell.
Like 40 minutes it will take to run through if you record it.
Is it on catch up? I'll just do it on.
It probably will be, on like more 5 or something.
I'll give it. I'll give it a watch and we'll have a chat after. But I guess, or if after the Overwatch stuff I stay in the London hotel, we just stick it on or whatever. There is definitely, there could be, but I actually like the fact there's less belts, if that makes more sense, because it didn't. For example, it allows in those pay-per-views that to have all the belts on the line and allow people just have these really fucking good matches. If you have too many belts, you're going to feel like all on, and then everything just turns into a belt fest, and too much could kill it. And so I'm definitely in this two minds. I feel like there could be something, and it doesn't have to be a belt. It could be like a competition, like a king, like a tournament, like a King of the Ring type thing.
Grand Prix winner, like we've got.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. But there could definitely be something that allows, but it's more geared towards the younger people in the company that haven't been to like WWE and clearly had a start there, or haven't established themselves in AEW like Pac has or something like that. Though Pac was at WWE, most of them are, but like or Kenny, for example, like that, or Hangman, like they're all clearly quite established now within, and you don't want them to win. The belt seems to feel like more like, hey, look, like a bit like a next scenario where like these are the young guys, and they're battling it out, and young guys and girls and stuff like that. So I don't know what the answer is. They could, but I'm quite happy with 3 at the moment. It doesn't feel like it needs another one.
No, agreed. Who are some of your favourites? Have you got like a top 5 of who you've enjoyed over the past sort of 8 weeks or so?
Yeah. So I think top of the pile probably would have been Jericho. I just think he's just brilliant. I love people that are great on the mic and that are funny with it. Yeah. So for me, he's probably right up there. I've really enjoyed watching Pac. I just think he's fantastic. Yeah. And actually, I'd probably say Kenny as well.
I thought you'd hate Kenny for some reason. I thought you'd get annoyed by his hair or something like. You
know what? I really did.
See you latching onto his curly hair and going.
I was sort of starting to not be so much towards Kenny. I was sort of being quite anti-Kenny. But then when I watched these matches against Pac, I got so much respect for that, and like it actually put on a really good show. And now I feel like I'm starting to understand his character, and I like the way he's sort of stuck in his. Like I hate the Young Bucks. I think they're fucking turd. Like they're one of these overly nice people that I just want to slap them. Like
that's why I got to go heel.
Exactly. But like that's exactly. And so like, I'm liking this whole sort of thing where and I'd like to see Kenny turn on the Bucks. That'd be good. So Kenny, and in the same vein, Hangman. So you can see here like there's clearly a theme around sort of more. They're not all at heels, but most of them have got this sort of way about them. And You would then expect John Moxley to be in that group, but I'm just not his biggest fan. Who else? I'm just sort of thinking, like, I'm not a big fan of Darby Allin, if I'm being honest. I know a lot of people probably die and listen to this because everyone seems to love him. I think that's probably why, because everyone loves him. And I'd rather see Sammy win, if I'm being honest, against Darby Allin, just to go against the grain.
You see that super kick that Sammy took the other week?
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
When he bounced off the ring, and then I think Matt Jackson super kicked him. It literally killed him.
Yeah.
His legs bent back. I was like, good lord.
Yeah, he's really good. And so Sammy probably is up there. I don't like Cody. I know loads of people are going to go,
Well, you know he's got the neck tattoo. I think most people will say
I don't like overly baby faces.
That was a turn heel. That was someone turning heel. I'm telling you, the neck tattoo is Cody turning heel. That counts.
No, I guess from a perspective, I do like. I'm going to count as one as the Lucha Brothers. I don't feel like they've been played well enough as heel, but I think they haven't. Fantastic in the ring, and I guess so like good. The other thing is this is probably going on. I'm just naming people now, but Orange Cassidy. I just
top T-shirt sale. They reckon.
Yeah, I was looking at it and thinking, and then they wanted like 30 quid for it. And I was like, nah, you're all right. You could probably get off eBay for $5. Yeah, like there are some good people in there. So yeah, I'm definitely more towards I definitely like sitting more towards the heels than the baby faces. Yeah. Except Kenny, I do like. I'm really liking Kenny. I think it's the way, like, for example, I don't know if you watched the interview, the before the ropes, whatever it's called, where it's him and Hangman, and they asked Hangman, Kenny, what do you think of is Hangman a liability? And Hangman went off for one, and the way Kenny played that, I thought was absolutely fantastic. He's like, I don't say no, and he walks away, and I was like, yeah, you are a fucking liability. I thought, I just really well played, and so I'm just enjoying that at the moment.
Good. You mentioned Cody the dislike. Anyone else that you're not getting on with? We know you hate Moxley as well. The Bucks.
Yeah, these baby faces. I wouldn't put, like I said, I was quite horrible towards Darby Allin, but I'm quite happy to watch him and stuff like that. I wouldn't put him as a dislike. I just don't like. In terms of the women's division, I'm not a big fan of Nyla Rose.
Oh, you can put the whole division would be my dislike.
Well, I do like
poor job.
Chris Statlander, and that was why I was quite disappointed, because I generally think she's quite a good wrestler, and so.
What about Britt Baker?
No, she's just. I don't hate. I think she's like, they keep giving her promos, and I'm like, she's not very good at it. And like she like the way when she was going off on what was the commentator Tony, and like I was just like, it was just, and I think like it seemed to go on. This was now going back to a Dynamite about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I think at one point JR just cut it off and went, we're going to go to the breaks. And halfway through, and I was like, and thank fucking God you cut that off. Like it was just so boring. She's just like, it wasn't even boring. She's just trying too hard. That was the problem. So that, and like. Yeah, I'm not going to go into the women's division. But yeah, no, there's no one I just don't like it when people are just overly baby faced and, they're really trying to be like sold as like, this golden child. And so there's a few of those flowing around. I remember the Cody's, the Young Bucks. And if Mox has got that sort of aura where everyone has to like him, I'm like, well, I don't.
You mentioned it earlier. About the shoulder content like AEW Dark and the Road 2s and things like that. Do you feel like, because you don't exclusively watch just Dynamite, but mostly Dynamite and then maybe the odd Dark episode, you feel like you're missing bits, or that you're not caught up enough, or is it actually okay that you're just watching Dynamite mostly, other than, we mentioned a few examples where it might not be the case, but is it something that you ever think, I wonder if I've got to watch extra content now to try and keep up?
No, like, so for example, like when you mentioned about Nightmare Collective, you said that they just paid that. To be honest, I didn't really care. Like they were one of these. I'm more, I think, about. I'm quite happy they did it on Dark. Like they could do. Like I feel like there were some good matches on there, but if I missed them, it's not the end of the world. The Kip Sabian Joey match was fantastic on Dark, and I think the only reason I sort of decided to give it a watch was Kip, because I was trying to wave the British flag for Kip again, and I thought I'd give it a watch, thinking because they had a match literally the week before on Dynamite, and it was a bit of a stinker, and actually I was pretty much going off Kip's at that point. I was thinking, no, this match is not that good, and then I watched the Dark, and I was like, the best match is on fucking Dark. So there are some good. What I tend to do now is I will I'll quickly go over to the YouTube, because in the UK they only show the Dynamite on Friday night, as I mentioned before. Obviously it's shown, I think, in the US on Thursday, maybe Wednesday night. So actually it means, therefore, I personally can't follow any of the social medias, because you just see what happens already, and that includes the YouTube. So I don't follow it, and so I'll wait until after Dynamite, and then I'll go over and wait and see if they've done that when you see the Dark, and I'll probably just have a quick look to see what matches on there, and if there's anything that interests me, I will quickly watch it. So for example, on the last week's one, I knew the Luther had a fight, and so I watched it knowing for a fact. Thinking, I bet Jimmy Havoc comes out here at some point. It just shows his face, because they've been trying to play this whole thing on Dark with Jimmy Havoc, so I sort of gave that a little watch. But I don't feel like I'm missing out. I feel like it's a good way. Actually, the only thing it does do is I can understand how people are getting all these wins when they weren't being shown on Dynamite. I was like, how are they getting these win ratios? There haven't been that many.
They don't recap.
No,
it
they should push Dark a little bit more, and just even if it's at the start of Dynamite, and just say on last week's Dark. Then
2 minutes it would take. You could just run through what the matches were, who won.
Yeah, exactly. When because it's clear that they're, for example, and they're trying to give Jimmy Havoc a bit of a win record at the moment, going into whatever's going to come up, but if they're not showing any of that on the Dynamite, and so when he comes to Dynamite, people probably won't have that little bit of background knowledge. I don't think it'll hinder it, but I just think it'd be a nice supplement. So I don't think you need to watch it, but I think they could do a little bit of a better job at selling it. I've noticed they have mentioned Dark a few times since. Maybe I'm just more aware of that now that I know that it's Dark, and it makes more sense to me.
Yeah, to be honest, you've got me there, and I'll curate stuff anyway, because I watch pretty much everything they do. So if there's anything I feel like you need to watch, I'll always post it to you. And you've got your own personal curator there, which is handy. Yep. Last question, and that will be it. Win-loss records are tracked. What do you think of that? Because I've not seen that pop up in any other wrestling promotion. And it feels like something that actually would be a bit of a nightmare to do. But how do you think they're doing with it? Do you like it, or are you not really that fussed about seeing the win-loss records?
I quite like it. I think they are going to come a bit unstuck, and I think that maybe a bit later on, and this little thing, as I said, and I keep going back sort of to this the Jimmy Havoc sort of scenario. They've given him 2 really easy wins on Dark, and it feels like they're just doing that to try and build up the win record, so that when he does come back to Dynamite, that it doesn't look like this piece of shit that they'd put him on because he'd lost loads before. They will from time to time put themselves down a bit of a rabbit hole, but little things like MJF, I think he hasn't lost a fight yet, or he's had a no contest. I think it was 6-0 before that, 6-0-1.
He ain't lost this year.
Anyway. It might be this year. And actually, that's quite a nice little thing that they're doing, actually separating between you.
They sort of reset it, don't they? It's like a
so
soft
you can see a whole thing in the way they're doing this year. So, it's a good way for them to suddenly actually, we need to build this character this year. And so actually give them that. And it doesn't matter really. We'll show everything, but, they're on a streak. And so I quite like it. It adds a little bit of new context. And I think what it does do, though, for me is for example, the title fight, Moxley at the moment could only, if he was only going to put the belt on the line, can only put his belt on the line against one of the top 5 now, and so that's something, that's what correct. Cody's in there, is Pac, Jericho will be there, Kenny, and there's someone else I think.
Yeah, swap someone in and out.
But
I think MJF was.
Is it MJF?
Yeah,
he's got quite a good record at the moment, but it's I guess it's that sort of helps to attribute that, and so it's quite. I don't know. I quite like it. It's a nice supplement thing. It's not really getting in the way of anything, and it just adds a little bit of context. But it does mean that if suddenly like Pac loses to Kenny, that it will impact his win-loss ratio, and therefore they've got to probably give Pac a couple of easier wins if they want to keep him in that top 5 rather than letting him drop out, as an example. Yeah. So
do you know the next stage for me is, in any sort of sport now, you have all these stats, like say for example in the UFC they have like over like Bisping's career, he landed the most punches per second compared to all the other middleweights. Like, I'm waiting for that to be the next stage of like analytics and bringing to wrestling. Like, this person's done the most, he's had the most near falls, he's got the most pins, the most all that sort of stuff that just sort of maybe even during a match that just pops up, and it's something that Excalibur can just say like, Kenny's got the most, I don't know, roll up wins or something stupid like that. But I've got a feeling I feel like there's a little gap there in wrestling where they could sort of fudge the numbers and make it have a little bit more of a narrative and a sports-like feel to it sometimes. But I guess the trouble with that is then if you go too far down the sports rabbit hole, it's not wrestling anymore. Yeah,
it's
and it's fine.
And that's the only thing with the sort of win-loss ratio that sort of I'm sort of on the fence about is it's I think they're playing it so well so it's entertainment and everyone knows it's not real and all stuff like that. Once you start having a win-loss ratio, you're like, well, but those numbers are sort of fudged anyway. It's not like someone earned those. Yes, they earn it because they're good at what they're doing and they want to push and stuff like that. But it's if WWE did it, Triple H would have fucking a 200 win 0 loss record, and it wouldn't be deserved. And so I think they just need to be a bit careful, like, because it could go like it could be overplayed and it doesn't need to be. But it's a nice supplement and it's a nice way for that when they give someone a push. I like the fact that both and I don't think they actually made a really big deal about it, but both Jericho and Moxley were undefeated coming into that fight. They both had a 0, and so someone was going to take an L. And they could have made something about that, for example, and that's a good opportunity to use the stats in those ways that both men are technically undefeated in AEW, and so someone's going to take their first loss. And so they could have definitely made like a bit about that, and it's just ways they could play it. But like, I think it's done fine at the moment.
Yeah, I think if they don't ram it down our throats and then like stop booking themselves into trouble where they've got to use they're not thinking ahead enough, so that people that are getting title shots that haven't earned it and all that sort of bollocks, as long as which they've done a good job of doing. So
I suppose they're putting themselves in a position where people like Jungle Boy could never beat Chris Jericho as a little match that just suddenly happened. Everyone, what the hell happened there? Because they know it impacted the win-loss ratio record. So you're pretty safe when one of the top people playing that. The most you might get is a draw.
Yeah, which we actually had between Jungle Boy and Jericho. A little 10-minute draw. Well, that'll be it. That was a good chat about All Elite and whatnot. I'm assuming you're going to carry on watching it. I didn't know if you would continue after the weeks, but it sounds like you're enjoying it week to week and enjoyed the Revolution pay-per-view. Now's the time though where you've got to make your commitment to the Chris Jericho cruise next year. So
is that even a thing? Because I think I was looking at that and there was once every 2 years, wasn't it?
No, every year it's happening. Well, it's happening next year. They've announced it. Nothing's up detail wise, but it's something to keep an eye on.
It depends on the price, I guess. Because the thing is,
it will be silly money now because it would have been good to have gone to this year's one where it was a little bit more low key.
Yeah.
But I think now it's because they've done that episode on the boat that they know they've got a money maker there, like Jericho has. So we'll see, but it'd be interesting to go to that. But then again, with fucking coronavirus knocking around,
we won't make it.
Yeah, probably won't even make it, or it'll get called off anyway. It'll still be an issue. Probably going to ruin my trip to Vegas, so I'm getting braced for that, which should be a stinker.
Get that insurance.
Anyway, yeah, absolutely. Make sure it's all locked in and still insured. But anyway, Paper, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back, I guess, for another episode of this at some point, and we'll see how AEW are getting on in the near future. Cheers.
No worries.
Everybody else, thanks for your time, and ta-da.